Good morning, everyone. It is Wednesday, August 5th, 2020. It is our 71st day of making art together. So this week we are focusing on processes of art, experimenting with different processes in art making, things that we typically might not try, but when we're in a studio and we can make a bigger mess, we can give a try. So today's process is making homemade scratch art. So for today's project, I need some pastels, some oil pastels, not dry pastels. Chalk pastels will not work for this, so oil pastels. Now let me just say again, if this is something that you're interested in once the film ends today and you don't have the supplies at home to create this, let me know, and then when you come in the studio, this is something we can do. So ultimately, in the end, we're going to end up with a piece of scratch art. Now, what is scratch art? Because we talk about scratch paper, which we make marks on or scribble on or make a note on. This is a little different. Scratch art is where you take the surface away to reveal the picture or to create the image. So we are going to end up with a black surface on this white piece of paper, and then ultimately in the end we'll be able to scratch the surface away, the black surface away, or it could be white if you were working in white. You could make a white surface as well, or any color. I'm just using black because it creates a nice contrast with the colors. So I've taken a little piece of paper. It's probably a 90-pound or 100-pound paper, which doesn't mean much to me at all. The higher in pounds you go up, though, the heavier the paper is. So this is probably 100-pound, probably 98, 100 pounds. So something in the 50 range would be very, very thin. Something like a newsprint would probably be 30-pound paper. So what that really means in the long run, I have no idea. I just know the lower the number, the thinner the paper. So you don't want to use a newsprint paper or poundage for something like this because the supplies go on kind of thing. So I've got my oil pastels, and I'm going to do this in stages for you. So I'm going to show you what I would do first of all here. So I'm just going to add color, and I'm going to blend, and I'm going to mix. I'm not going to create any image in particular. I just am concerned about color. I want to know that when I get to the scratching part of my art that I'm going to have color under there that will come through and that will make my image more interesting. So use any colors you want, depending on what color palette you like. You might like bright colors, you might like muted colors, you might like colors that really pop, or colors that kind of blend in, or colors that contrast each other, or colors that complement each other. For this, I guess I'm just going with bright colors, kind of a spectrum of the rainbow here. Okay, so what I'd want to do is I'd want to color my whole surface here. I wouldn't want to have any parts left uncolored, because I want to know that if I decide to scratch over here, I'm going to get some color. And if I don't color those areas, when I paint over it, sometimes the substance, the mixture we're going to make is not even going to scratch away. It's just not going to do anything there. So I'm going to try to cover all the surfaces in color. I know I'm missing some places and I'm leaving some blank. Just trying to do this quickly to show you the next steps. Okay, so basically I've got most of my image color covered there. Go in and add a little bit more color. So you can see I'm not being deliberate at all. I could be. I could really think about this and plan it out. I'm not. I'm just getting color down. So that's really my focus with that. Okay, then what we do next is we take some dish soap. I've got some Mrs. Meyer's clear dish soap here. It's honeysuckle. And then I've got some black acrylic paint. So what I want to do is I want to mix about 2 parts of acrylic to about 3 parts acrylic to 1 part soap. So I don't do anything by the book. So I've got the paint in here already. I'm going to add just a tiny bit more. And then I'm going to add just a tiny bit more of soap. And what the soap does is it makes a nice wax substancy texture to this paint and will let us scratch it away. If we just paint over this, we're not going to get a nice surface to scratch away. Okay, so once I have it mixed up, and it smells really good, I'm going to paint over my image. And I'm probably going to add 2 coats, because if I don't add 2 coats, then I might see all my color already shining through, but you might like that, so you might want to leave it like that. Now, what I always used in past years was ivory dish soap. I found that worked really great, kind of a cloudy, clear dish soap, and it worked really great. Couldn't find any ivory out on the market these days, so I went with Mrs. Meyer's, and it seems to work just fine. I think you could probably use any dish soap, and it would probably create a very similar effect. Okay, so there's what I've done. I have covered my surface with the black soap mixture, and I'm just going to let that dry. You want to let that dry for about 24 hours to make sure it gives you a nice surface. I'm going to bring in my other piece that's ready to go. So here's this piece. It's nice and dry. It has had the same application done to it with the soap and the paint, and now I can take tools. I can get a scratch art tool, which is really, as you can see, just a dowel or a skewer. And you can find skewers at the grocery store. Here's a real skewer. These skewers are a little bit long to use in holding, so I want to use the scratch art tool that I probably ordered from NASCO, an art company. I also have a toothpick here, and what I find though is the toothpick doesn't scratch very, it's a little bit more frustrating, but I'll give it a try. So I can start scratching. Yeah, the toothpick doesn't work so nicely. I could use so many different kind of tools here. I could use a nail, I could use a screw, I could use a little screwdriver, anything. I could use a tweezers. I could use anything that has a surface that's going to let me scratch it away. Okay, so you're not going to be able to see it on film here, but you're going to get some really, really bright, vibrant colors underneath that. Now, if you don't like projects where sometimes things don't turn out the way you hope they would, this may not be for you. I'm trying to create a spiral here, and it doesn't want to scratch away, or it might flake away in a way I didn't want it to. This tells me probably in this area that will not scratch away, I either didn't have a lot of oil pastel underneath, or there wasn't soap in that area of the paint, because it's really that soap that makes the paint scratch away, makes it waxy enough to scratch away. Okay, so that is that bit of it. You can see that I get a lot of different colors under there when I've added a lot of colors. So now I'm getting into the greens and yellows and blues. Okay, so the next step of this, I want to show you the one that I'm working on. Okay, can you see that? Okay, so this is the bigger piece of this. This piece was cut off of the top of here. The little piece I was working on has been cut off the top, so it's a variation of that. And I found a picture of a hummingbird, and I wanted to work with that. So you can see, you have to think a little bit differently when you're working in scratch art. The breast of my hummingbird in the photograph was, a lot of white, grays, and greens. And I had to make the decision, if I start scratching away, how am I going to create the fact that that's a belly of a bird? So I decided to leave it and create a bit of an outline and actually take away outside of the bird instead. When it came to the details of his throat, I wanted to create all of those circles that were on his throat. I also wanted the beak to be very, very black and stand out, so I knew that I needed to take away all the color around him. And then I started playing with the flowers over here that, of course, the hummingbird would be looking at. And what I found is I did not go all the way to the edges, so you can see where my image cuts off here and here. It doesn't want to scratch away because there's nothing underneath that black, so it won't. So it's really the combination of the the black paint, the soap, and the pastels that really work together to make this possible. Another thing is that this is really a messy process. You wouldn't think it would be, because once it's dry, why would it be so messy? But as you scratch away, you've got all these soapy black flakes everywhere, and they kind of make a mess of the back of your image, as well as they're everywhere. They're all over my table here, and I can try to get rid of them, but there's not a lot of point because they're just going to be there. But this is our scratch art, homemade scratch art. So if you get an inclination to make it, let me know how it goes for you and if you enjoyed it. I really enjoy the element of surprise when I scratch things away, like, oh, I wonder what color's gonna appear here when I put a flower here, or a leaf down here. I don't know what color is under there, or what color is the throat of my hummingbird going to be, or how do I creatively meet the challenge of making his wings look like wings when a hummingbird's wing is moving so fast that in a photo it's almost just a blur. So what can I do to make that look most realistic? Okay, happy art making. Have a great day. If you need anything, give me a call, 230-4324, or jennifer.bethel@oakwoodvillage.net, and I'm happy to help you with anything. Also, don't forget, coming up on September 4th is the deadline for the Vitality Fitness Center's Art Challenge, Active Art Challenge. So please get an entry in for that, or some entries in for that. We'd love to see your art being submitted for that art challenge. Again, next week I'll go through the list of words to remind you of those words, but you can find them probably somewhere on our Facebook page or on Touchtown, or back in an old email if you still have an email from July 3rd. Okay, thanks so much. I'll see you soon.